Let's talk to Matt Vickers, MP, Shadow Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fire, also MP for Stockton West. Matt, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How's it going?
Well, it's not going very well, to be fair, because we've got this ridiculous government in charge who seem to make one blunder after another, and I'm expecting you to hold them up to account, Matt. So I've got some advice for you in a minute. But first, let's have a look at what Stella Creasy thinks should happen.
I think the story is that Boris Johnson is struggling on a Prime Minister's salary to be able to cover the cost. I mean, we all get it. Everyone's been at home a lot during the pandemic, maybe thinking about home renovations. But this is the Prime Minister, and this could lead to the Prime Minister being suspended from the House of Commons. And the challenge is he has form for this. He's been told off before for late registration of his financial interests. And of course, it's not just him. It's things like the Greensill inquiry. It's what's happening with Lord Lister. It's that growing sense that there's a kind of chumocracy at the top of Parliament, and that if you do a favour for one guy, you can get a favour back, whether it is a contract on PPE or being able to get your wallpaper paid for.
Now, that was Stella Creasy obviously talking about Boris Johnson, the former Prime Minister. Matt, I think you would be able to be within your rights to say, as an opposition MP, that you could call for something similar against Keir Starmer, couldn't you?
It's a case of do as they say, not as they do, by all accounts. The one thing that stinks, that really stinks about some of these donor issues with the Labour Party at the moment is they're worse than what went before them. Because actually, people are getting something in return. All these donors being given jobs in the civil service, it's just completely and utterly wrong. The guy who bought his glasses and bought his wife's clothes has now got free access, well, has had free access to number 10, the highest office in the land. He marches in with his pass, glasses for passes. It's completely wrong. But the one that stinks more than anything, when it comes to these donations is the unions. Yeah. We've seen pensioners have their pensioners on £13,000 a year have their winter fuel allowance snatched from them, while he's giving pay rises of almost 10 grand to train drivers on £65,000, all motivated by donations from unions. It's just not acceptable. We knew that this government was going to stink. We knew it was going to be awful. We knew that people would learn the lessons of having a Labour government. We didn't realise they would learn them this quick and this badly.
But is there, would you say, grounds for actually putting Keir Starmer on the spot, perhaps at Prime Minister's questions or maybe on another occasion, either from Rishi Sunak's point of view or from your own, you're a shadow minister, and say, look, I believe that you are in breach of parliamentary guidelines. You have not declared within 28 days, something that you said was very clear when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, something that you said was very easy to understand, and the rules are very easy to obey, apparently, according to him, but he hasn't obeyed them.
Believe me, this is something we're looking at, and if there is an opportunity to take him down through all the fandangled bureaucracy and rules in Parliament, then we'll be doing so. You know, there are question marks about him reporting these clothes purchases, and we must do everything we can to hold him to account. One of the biggest problems I think that we've got, though, in holding this government to account is some of the less reputable media outlets who are less willing to give this fair voice. Do you know, if Conservative governments had done some of the things that the Labour Party have done, the BBC might have a lot more to say about it. Certain other media outlets would have a lot more to say about it. Obviously, sound channels like this hold those people to account regardless of their political persuasion, but I think we've got to make sure that the media are listening to us. The country, you know, people in my constituency are furious.
People are. I mean, we've been showing the clip all morning. Starmer going to the St Ledger races at the weekend in Doncaster, getting booed, getting heckled. We've got a Labour MP in Aldershot getting heckled by people who are very unhappy about the pensions scenario, also very unhappy about the migrant scenario. I mean, Keir Starmer's put out in the last hour a tweet, right, because you know they've appointed this bloke called Martin Hewitt, who's the new Border Security Commander. Here's what Keir Starmer says. Now, listen for the key word, right? Our Border Security Command will tackle the smuggling gangs who trade the lives of men, women and children across borders. Sorry, I'll just say that again. Our Border Security Command will tackle the smuggling gangs. I thought he was going to smash them. Now he's going to tackle them. It's a bit different, isn't it?
Day one, remove the deterrent. The one thing that everybody says is you need a deterrent. You need a reason that those people will not get in those boats in the first place. Keir Starmer has voted against every single measure brought forward to toughen up our immigration system. Yeah. This is a guy who campaigned against the deportation of foreign criminals. He's in cloud cuckoo land. He's on another planet. He does not care about the things that are bothering people on the streets of Stockton or across this country at all.
No, exactly right. And one of the things that people care about, in addition to immigration, is the release of all these prisoners that happened last week, 1,700 of them. One of them was only out for a few minutes before he allegedly committed a sexual assault on a woman at a train station in Kent, right? We've now got something like 5,000 more coming out over the course of the next few weeks. And it's completely untenable for people who want to supposedly be able to walk safely around the streets of their own neighbourhoods. They've either got to worry about migrants moving into the area who they don't recognise and they don't know, and or criminals moving into the area because they're getting priority for social housing as well.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's incredibly scary. You know, the government's just accepted from civil servants that this is the way we're going to deal with the challenges and the pressure on our prison places.
Yeah.
The reality is, you know what, there is huge pressure on prison places, but that's because we didn't release prisoners during the pandemic, and I think that's right, because we toughened up sentences for sexual and violent offenders. I think that was right. But actually, the last government had the biggest prison building programme since the Victorian ages. We were opening 100 additional prison places every week. One of the biggest problems with pressure on our prison places is that about 10%, and probably increasingly so, 10% of the people in those prison places are foreign national offenders, and they should be deported and they should be removed from this country.
Yeah, absolutely right. It doesn't seem to make any sense at all what it is that they're doing. And meanwhile, he's over in Italy today, Keir Starmer. He's going to meet up with Giorgia Meloni, and people in his own party, in addition to organisations like the Refugee Council, are claiming that he's now moving to the far right because he might be copying what Italy does.
To be honest, he'll say lots of things. He'll do very little. We know that the first thing he did on arriving in office was getting rid of that deterrent, and the consequences are there for everybody to see, and we're going to see it for the next few years. 19 countries across the EU are trying to replicate what we were trying to achieve with Rwanda. Germany looking at taking up the accommodation, the facilities that we built to deal with the people we were removing. It's insane.
It really is. And meanwhile, in the background to all of this is Sue Gray, you know, the sort of the grey woman who's now apparently appointed herself as somebody who can be on the Security Council here in the UK. A very important job. Pat McFadden also is on that council. You know, there's all kinds of stealthy moves being made where people like Alan Milburn are now somehow attached to the Department of Health. You know, there's a lot to go at in here.
Yeah, this independent, neutral civil servant, Sue Gray, who got Boris the kick, booted Boris out of office, you know, had a huge role in that, was apparently entirely independent and entirely neutral. And then we see Alan Milburn, who's got some sort of lobbying outfit now in the health service, probably making lots of money. He's marching around Westminster now with access he shouldn't have. It just stinks.
And Wes Streeting doesn't seem to think he needs to answer to any of this, and he keeps referring to, you know, the Commons Library if you want to go and find out what's going on. Well, why do you think Alan Milburn's working for nothing in the Department of Health?
There is so much going on. There is so much going on that actually going to get away with some of these stories, partly because the press, some of the press don't report on it, and partly because they are doing so much. There are so many dodgy donor scandals going on, so many questions about the people who they are pointing to roles, that actually things just get lost in the ether, and they seem to be getting away with more than they should be. Yeah,
I think so. Well, it's up to you, Matt, to hold them to account. I shall hold you to account, and we can do a deal together. What do you think?
Definitely. We're on it. We'll get you in there, Mike. We need to get you elected.
No, you can't afford me. Matt Vickers, MP, Shadow Minister of State for Crime, Policing and, regardless of anything else, Fire. I don't know why they always add that bit on at the end. He's MP for Stockton West as well.